And in other news of the day, more protests are expected on the streets of Algeria this Friday afternoon. This as President Bouteflika is facing growing pressure to step down. The 82-year-old has barely been seen in public since suffering a stroke 6 years ago. Lawyers, teachers, the military and members of the ruling coalition are all now calling for him to be declared unfit for office. Joining me now from Barcelona in Spain is Algerian specialist and journalist Francis Ghilès. Francis, we now have members of the ruling coalition calling for Bouteflika to step down. So how much longer can he effectively hang on?
Well, I don't think he's hanging on or not hanging on, because he's probably not taking any of the key decisions about himself the last few weeks. So in a way, I think he will go. There is no doubt at all about that. And the fact that many of his long-standing allies are fleeing a sinking ship like rats leaving a ship is hardly very surprising. It's not very edifying. The question is, where do we go from here? And behind all these big street demonstrations, there is a ferocious battle going on between the Chief of Staff, General Ghilès, who holds, of course, a lot of power in his hands, and the former head of security, General Bouteflika, who was demoted at Bouteflika's request 3 years ago. And these two are fighting it out by proxy. Some of them are trying to provoke incidents by letting supposed Islamists into the crowds and whatever. So we are in a quite confused situation. And of course, a number of young people, or even less young people, are worried because they do not want the progress they've made so far in regaining control, regaining a voice, if you will, to disappear. They don't want to be caught, to be yet again sidelined.
As you say, this is turning into a power struggle between these two generals. So out of the two of them, who's likely to win?
Well, we don't know, because you must remember that the Chief of Staff is not wildly popular part of the army. Last summer, he removed the commanders of most of Algeria's military regions, pretexting corruption. Some of them have gone to trial. Most of these charges are completely trumped up, and basically what he was trying to get appointed were officers loyal to Bouteflika. So there are many senior officers in the army and indeed in the police who are upright, honest people who are looking at all this with great misgivings. So exactly how all this plays out is very difficult to say. The main thing is that it has remained peaceful, because this is absolutely fundamental. But I do not think that the people in the streets, and indeed many others higher up, will look kindly upon this attempt to steal, if you will, the reforms from under their feet.
Is there not a problem, though, Francis, in the fact that there's no clear leadership in terms of a person to talk to on the part of those participating in those protests?
Well, that's true and it's not true. If you will, it's not surprising that the people who are protesting haven't had time to organise, to print programmes, to discuss the future. That's not surprising at all. But on the other hand, what has been mooted, or what is being discussed in Algiers at the moment, is resorting to one or two of Algeria's senior elder statesmen, like former President Zeroual or former Prime Minister Mouloud Hamrouche, who are both upright officers. Mr. Hamrouche led a government of great reforms in 89-91, and these people, together with members of civil society, to use an easy word, there are plenty of well-known economists, doctors, specialists of oil and gas who could perfectly well constitute a kind of interim administration. But if the interim is only led by people who are very close to Bouteflika, then there is a risk of trouble, because nobody will believe that reforms are really being granted.
Francis, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you.